Hi Scott, how are you?
Really cool house.
One person, we're at maximum capacity. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. If everyone would stand with the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brady, do you mind passing the clipboard this direction?
Sure.
Please.
Do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I know, well.
I think David always said
Well,
That's a little wild. The wind wreaking havoc with you.
I went from San Miguel Power meeting to
So
playing in the
there's
dirt.
clearly not as many names on here as there are in the room, so I'm gonna pass this back out to you guys to sign. But I also only have one person signed up to speak this evening during public comment. Is that accurate?
If it's on the agenda, that you can speak during the meeting.
If there's a topic on here, yes. Yes. All right, so I'm gonna pass this back out to you guys if you don't mind, and Jesse, you are up.
Hi.
Oh,
So,
did we do roll call? Oh, well, sorry, I'm sorry,
That's
Jesse.
all right.
I skipped a couple things.
That's okay.
All right, David, would you start us off for roll call, please?
David Johnson,
Please, no.
Joseph Pettinger,
Paul Brown.
Mayberry.
Scott Warren.
We do have a quorum present. Now. Thank you, Lee.
so some of you know where I live, about at 731 West 11th in Shawnee. We had a little bit of issue with the speed limit here a while back. It got dropped to 5 and then it went back to 15. And I mean, really it's just a technicality because nobody does the speed limit anyway. So with that, with the dust, with the cars ripping through, they don't stop the stop sign. Is there something we could do with the dust? Mag, maybe?
I don't think that we have it. I was gonna say, I don't remember us having mag chloride
We
before.
do not, we don't have any way of
So I know with San
spraying
Miguel,
it, but maybe the county does.
I was gonna say, one of the counties.
so San Miguel County, we've done that with communities and Telluride. I'm sure it comes to it with a cost to the community as well. I don't know what that would be, but I'm not on the end of it. But if not that, speed bumps, we had speed bumps at one point. That worked great. Speed bumps worked great. They were fantastic. People slowed down. The dust wasn't near as bad. And we already have those. Is that something to look at putting back?
We
Right.
can look into it. We can't make a decision since
Right,
it's not
right.
on the agenda, but we'll
Right.
definitely take the notes down and what the concern is, and then we can come back to it.
Perfect. And that's all I got.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jesse. Anyone that came in late wanted to address the board during public comment? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that the board wants to hold out for further discussion? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Scott?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I vote yes. Joseph?
Yes.
Aline?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carried. All right, so first item, oh, was there anything else that needed to be added to the agenda? I'm sorry. I didn't ask you guys that. I think we're. First item is approved payment to Williams Construction.
I was gonna ask Melissa, Melissa, you guys, you're gonna schedule something on this?
What is that?
Search.
I do not have time to look at that this week. A short week and a half, but it'll be before us on the next agenda. I mean, we can talk about it tonight and add it if you'd like, but I don't have
I
anything
think you
to
need
share
a-
right now.
I think you need all the players here again.
Yeah.
So is this amount final payment?
No,
Or progress?
no, this is just progress payment number 2, through April. We are probably going to combine, they will be done the first week in June. So we will combine May and the first week of June into the next pay request, and then, that's not me, is it?
No, that's not you.
And then finalize it with a retainage check in July after everything is done. So we have at least 2 more payments to do.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the payment to Williams Construction for $476,346.71.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to approve payment to Williams Construction, $476,346.71. David?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
I vote yes. Tim?
Yes.
Kenny?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, so next is to review the NWA fishing permit discussion processes. So, let's see
So, I remove a lot of the Mustang Water Authority reservoir stuff out of here,
Okay.
because it's Nucla reservoir. It's our reservoir, it's not Mustang's.
Oh, okay.
Mustang Water Reservoir maybe tells some other people where it is, but actually I think Nucla reservoir pretty much says it.
Okay.
I definitely don't want to start with the 15. Too early.
Is that too, I mean, this would be like from year over year.
I know,
Yeah.
but it
Is that
won't
too
be
early? Okay.
Second
The
page.
reservoir won't be, I prefer
Might use it for an alibi.
more full than not. I also have an issue with issuing a, so that would basically be a 6-month permit issued to someone so they could show up at any time with a permit. And I could have 500 people out there at any given time for all you know, so we gotta find a way to limit that so that we don't have the shores lined with fishing and women.
We talked about that last time, but
Yeah, this
I
could be a
just kind of,
solution, yeah, I know.
I don't.
Number probably,
do you wanna make this like a monthly permit? Or,
I think we should have.
and then have a
some-
limit on the amount of permits?
the problem is, of course, is that people are gonna wanna, most people are
Thank
gonna
you,
work,
Jim.
so that the only time they can fish is like on the weekend. So at that point, you're looking at how do you do it so that you don't have absolute chaos out there, with people trying to fish and then fighting on fishing spots. But,
We have 10 permits a week or whatever, and once they're gone, they're gone. And if somebody's getting all of them, maybe
yeah,
we have a list of people.
You could not have, you could only get it so many times,
Mm-hmm.
so you gotta pace yourself or something.
Mhm.
Put in for the draw.
There you go, a fish and draw.
What do we
I
call
just
it?
don't-
So limit the number of
Limit
permits
the-
per week, and then limit how many a person can get in a season.
I'm sure there's some people that can go out there and fish during the week, but there's a lot of people that aren't, they're just gonna, they're gonna wanna do it on the weekend.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do it weekly or monthly? Cause if we're gonna make them pay, if that's pay every week to.
Yeah, but you're not gonna, if you adjust your fee accordingly.
Maybe it's a maximum amount of days for the fee regardless of how many days you make it out there. So if you buy 10, even if you only make it out there once,
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. The only thing it needs to pay for is the porta potties. And any
if we
cleanup.
have anybody that has to go out there and check.
Yeah.
So with the cleanup part, and then last time we brought up maybe volunteers to watch and take care of that. So I for one put after that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't have Jesse.
My neighbor
He just
also,
wants to fish, you guys.
my neighbor also, he's retired and all he does is fish. So, and he's really about cleanliness, and he's on board with it as well.
I mean, I'm proposing like a committee that would be in charge of cleanup and
With that, though, would that open me to fishing?
So it's hypothetical.
No, you don't get an extra permit for that.
You would get extra consideration, but you wouldn't get black sheep.
No, I would pay.
I just don't want it to turn, I just don't want this to turn into a couple people get it and everybody else is kind of going, well, what about me? So, but yeah, I think volunteerism should definitely run this thing.
So my biggest thing is that place is awesome. I mean, I enjoyed going there with my kids, and I was really bummed when it got taken away. And whatever I can do to remedy the problem of it not being taken away, I'm 100%
Yeah,
behind.
because it got taken away because it was being abused by.
Right,
And that, you know, that's what we want to avoid.
exactly.
That's a water
It's like with everything, it takes that one person to screw it up for everybody.
I used to drive by our Batters Reservoir all the time, outside of Golden. And the only people fishing out there were people running the damn reservoir, and that was not very nice in my opinion. And I do not fish. So, I fish, but I do not fish that reservoir because it's damp. So, just so you know, I don't have a private reserve out there.
Rudy?
I'm not familiar with the MWA fishing. Where is this? What is
Mustang
it?
Water Authority.
It's
the
what?
Mustang Water Authority, it's a treatment plant for our domestic water.
So is that down below by Camp
East
B or
of
is that
town.
up here?
Uh,
Oh, the one on
East
the,
of town.
right up here on the left?
Not the little one, that's a rainbow.
if you go down 10th, all the way down
CC
instead
Road.
of turning towards the power plant, keep going straight where it peaks, it's the one out there.
That's Lakes out there. So you have to have a fishing permit to go out there?
Yeah,
Where do you
yeah.
obtain that?
But
They haven't, that's what they're deciding now.
a couple
Still
of
close.
major ones
Still
that
close
got
to the top.
are no, the gate won't be open for motorized vehicles. The only thing with the motor to be allowed in there is mobility.
So
Right,
Somebody
okay.
needs. And bicycles would be fine, they can get those through that little
That walk gate, yeah.
small gate, so everything else would be a walk-in.
Could you, give the board access to put their suggestions on this document? Is that a deal with them, so that we can make suggestions over on the side?
Yep.
We can make Jesse the pond host.
I'm down.
There'll be
I
a
like-
special
I like
hat that
pond
says
host, I
pond host, pond host.
Yeah.
Get them a sticker.
Yeah.
Order it, probably.
Wear it proudly like a badge on it, yeah, that'll be nice.
A batch.
Yeah.
all free fishing.
The other thing is, under fishing regulations, you need to define why you're excluding grass, or how you're excluding grass carp. Either you're excluding them because you can take as many as you want, or you're excluding them because you can't take
No, 'cause they're
any.
very expensive
Right,
to buy.
okay.
So,
They're in there for a reason, they're in there for a reason.
then we just, it just needs to be called out in here, because right now it just says excluding black grass carp, that you don't know which way
Oh,
it
okay.
goes.
And we're gonna have to have a picture of grass.
So they
Yeah.
can identify it.
With the grass carp though as well is gonna be artificial size numbers only. The only way anybody's gonna catch one of those is they're intentionally trying to snap.
They do, yeah, they come right into shore. I mean, you've got 2-foot grass carp,
Yep.
2.5, 3 foot. They'll
No,
come
I've seen
right
it,
up in.
and they ain't gonna go after a lure is what I'm getting at. So unless they're illegally bait fishing with no balls or something along them lines, or snagging them,
Is there a reason why somebody would want to catch those? They're cool.
they're big.
They're
lots of reasons.
They're big,
I don't fish, so I don't know.
kids are kids, they're dumb.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to catch a big fish when I was a kid. so.
Yeah, I still do, but I ain't gonna wanna snag one in the tail either.
So and that, and also no horses, no, can't ride your cow in there.
Yeah, that's already in there.
I was supposed to get it right.
Yeah, I'll make it a Google Drive that you can track everybody's changes if you do it, where you can track everybody's changes.
Yeah.
Does the 18 cut off a liability for us, or is that just
Is what,
as far as 18, yeah, anyone under 18 has to be accompanied, is that With an adult,
That's the fishing license thing, isn't it?
has to have an adult with them.
16.
Or is it 16?
I think it's 16.
16, I think.
Yeah, this says 18.
I didn't really change much from the one that David provided. I just changed Nucla and MWA.
I'd be,
16.
Do we wanna put a time limit on getting our changes into this thing? Cause I know that there are people out there who wanna fish.
We'll get into June.
So our next meeting's June 11th. Maybe if we can have everything for a clean copy to be provided at that meeting.
Okay.
With, of course, this year maybe June 15th start date, or something close to that.
no harassing the water. Except the otters. You could throw rocks at every otter you
No,
see.
you can.
Yes, you can. They have to be chased out of there. Otters and muskrats.
Wonder why.
Okay, should we move forward?
Yes.
John? Reed?
Evening, John Reed, 445 West 6. Here on behalf of Tab Watch Trail Riders, Jim Canna, kicks off June 5th. We're looking at a dry season. I did acquire a watering system for this season, but I need water for it. Now, up there is a 1-inch tap that hopefully we can get the Arena Advisory Committee to get together and start planning out maybe a fixed watering system up there that's more on a permanent line type attached to the fencing, so it just sprays out into the arena so it doesn't leave huge puddles out there like the big rainbirds we got out there right now. They just make a big giant mud hole in the middle where they sit. Other than that, we've been using water trucks type thing. That's what I'll be using this time, but I need a water source to be able to fill up the truck up. So I would like, if the town would be willing to let me tap somewhere so I can fill the truck up so I can spray the arena down for the 6 gym cameras that we're going to be having.
We fill from that.
We prefer not to have people fill from the hydrants just because it becomes an issue if something happens and that flows in. But we have our water fill station. I know it's a little ways to the arena, but
That's
it
fine.
fills fairly quickly, and we have a car, you know, we have our own key, like the town of Nucla
Okay.
key, that we
Yep.
can get. If we don't have another one floating around, we can get another key.
Okay,
And that would be
Well,
pretty quick, I think.
yeah, that works for me.
it helps us track the water too, which we have to do.
Yeah, because if we do move forward with the arena committee on that, on established off that 1-inch line that's up there now, I don't know if there's a meter off that already and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, I think there is a meter on
Okay.
that line already, so we
So
are
yeah, we
set
just
up
need
to
to get the
use
arena
it.
committee to kind of kick it around together to try to come up with a plan on a permanent watering system. That way you don't have to drive out, because when you drive out with the water trucks, you're backing it down and stuff again. So we're gonna try to keep it as loose as possible. So, all right, just see you here in the next week.
You just come in and we'll get you a key whenever you're
Okay.
available,
I'll
and
book
then you
the rest
just
of
keep it
this.
for the season, and we'll know that it's you.
Okay. So, okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, the next item says that we have an interested,
Are we interested in selling that old motor grader? It's up at the shop, it's the one that's got the seized motor, nobody can get it, and Rod looked it all over when he was here, and it's like a parts thing. And Chris has a light machine, and he would use this for parts. I think we tried to auction this off when we sold a couple of other items, but nobody was interested in it.
You didn't put out for bid or anything?
We did it when we put out a couple of pickups and a couple of other equipment pieces that we had up there that were not being used, that were old. And this one just did not sell, I'm guessing because it had a seized motor.
Yeah, probably because nobody has.
The
parts.
scrap prices are pretty low, so
Where's
this might be
the
the
low?
best stuff. buy, bang for our buck, I don't know.
Guys, all right?
I think it sounds good to me. I'll make a motion to sell the motor grader to Chris Tomlinson for $1,000.
We have a motion and a second to sell the motor grader to Chris Tomlinson for $1,000. Scott?
Yes.
Kenny? Yes. Tim?
No.
Okay, how about yes? Joseph?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll move into old business. Cell tower. And Vertical Bridge is meeting with Powder River Development and will schedule a time to meet with us, the town. Did you?
They're meeting this week.
Okay, I was just wondering if you had any other details for that.
No, they're gonna discuss all the questions that we asked them and see if they can help us out.
Okay, on that topic, can I speak now? I have a request for,
Could you stand and state your name and
Oh, sure.
address for the record, please?
Mimi Johnson. I brought with me a request for a moratorium on the tower implementation in Nucla. With the reasons why, and then also, a formal complaint about the tower lease agreement and the differences with that, and you guys can pass it around, or I can read it.
I think we received it by email today.
Oh, good, okay. And then I just have a bunch of questions that it would be great if we could get answered, the things that I think are really, it's the core questions that justify the investigation. So if we can kind of go through those, I think that would be really helpful, and I understand maybe we can't answer them all now, but I plan to put these on Facebook and just give everybody the answers that they get here, that way the people that aren't here, they can get all the information.
What was your address again?
I'm not in Paradox, it's 10042 X Road.
So you're not a Nucla resident?
No.
Because on all of your paperwork that I received, it says that you are a Nucla resident.
Okay, well, I'm not a Nucla resident, but I do have 2 students at the Nucla school.
Okay. Just
So,
clearing up your own paperwork.
okay,
That's all
sure,
we're doing.
yeah, okay, but I do consider myself, we use your fire and your, we're kind of core community, we work together, the communities do. And we don't have a school, so for me, it is really important that this issue gets resolved.
I understand.
So, do you want me to just dive right in?
Yeah, I think we're gonna probably limit the time since we didn't plan for a public hearing
Okay.
on this tonight. We've had a public hearing that we tried to answer some questions that was brought before us, and then that's where we are now trying to bring in Vertical Bridge so that they would come to us and help answer some other questions for our community. So some of the things that you posed to us today in your emails, is ground that we have covered and answered questions for publicly.
Okay.
And I also, there's some things in there that you're misstating, and you're alluding to the fact that this board acted unadvised, and with the exception.
That's what we'd just like to clear up, and that's what's going on in the communities. Nobody really understands, because there's only 2 options here. It's a really terrible deal. So either it was put through by negligence, maybe people weren't at the level they needed to be to do a contract of this caliber, or there was some kind of collusion maybe going on with the phone company, or, my understanding is that there was only one person in contact with the attorney the whole time dealing with the
And that's
negotiation.
incorrect, and we've covered
That's
that
great.
ground before, so.
But those are things that are part of the investigation, and I have a list of, 12 questions that if we can't cover them tonight, I can email them or whatever's best, but there are things that need to
I'm gonna leave
be.
that to the board's decision. Do you wanna cover them tonight, or do you want her to email you the questions?
We
that
can
she
start
has?
with a couple, or,
That's all I wanna know, is what you guys wanna do.
So we're having Vertical Bridge come in?
Well, we've been asking them
And have
to,
a-
that's been,
Yeah, we're-
that's
we'll
been the
put it
process.
in
now,
there.
but-
Public meeting at that time?
Yeah.
So why can't you wait till then?
well, the contract's been signed, correct? So I'm just requesting that we put a hold on anything pertaining to the
You can
contract until we
request
get these
that, but we're
questions
legally
answered.
bound to a contract, and you've also inferred that we didn't have any legal counsel, which we've had tons of.
No, I didn't, I
legal
actually
counsel.
said that I was told, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of gossip in the community, which I would think would be a priority to clear up.
That's why we had community meeting to try to answer those questions and those
It's
concerns.
still existing, even with your community meetings.
And they choose to believe it.
I was
They
gonna
can
say,
come to meetings as well.
I think we're fully aware that this board is not trusted by many people in the community.
That's not even what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm saying that the contract is awful, and there's some questions. And we should cover those and get it out in the open so that everybody understands what's going on and why we entered a 50-year contract with no right to sublease. We don't get any of the money from that. Like, let's say there were no issues with 5G. It's still a terrible contract. And one of the questions I have is, why were protections that would have allowed the town to cancel or renegotiate the lease intentionally removed or altered in the final draft? That's really important I think everybody deserves to know that.
I think that all I can say is that we went through legal counsel and several revisions of this, and we took our legal counsel's advice when we proceeded with the contract and signed it.
And then my
So we've
request is
also
that we just
taken
put that out in the open
We've
so
also
that everyone
taken
has access.
complete ownership that we didn't do everything just right, and I don't think anybody's strayed away from saying that we could have done better.
Well, this is a big enough deal to enough of the residents that it's about, we're gonna figure out a way to renegotiate the contract, or it's gonna get escalated to the Attorney General.
Well,
Like, this is not a joking around kind of thing. Like, 5G is not proven safe. We just went through this with COVID where it was trust me, bro. Like, we're not doing it again. Not right next to the school. Another question is, how did it get moved from the dump to the school? And was that a public meeting? When was that out?
all of those conversations were held in a public meeting, just like you're in tonight.
I've been told that they were not, by people that have
Yes, they
attended. Okay, can you point me to the date of you guys don't have records from any of these meetings, correct?
We have,
We have minutes
public
from every
meetings
all-
from every
every
meeting, and it was on the agenda for 2
For,
years.
for me to access.
You've requested them, haven't you?
For $700 is the response I got, but yes, I have requested all of the records, but the thing is, it should be publicly available. This shouldn't be a contentious point. It should just be like, man, we made mistakes, here's where we did it, maybe we weren't fully informed. Let's all renegotiate the contract together and get something that we're all happy with.
Well, first of all, we don't have a renegotiation clause in there.
Well, we do if we can prove collusion. And we do if we can prove the contract was entered under faulty clauses. And that's where we're gonna go with it if we can't get this figured out.
You can send in my opinion, you can send your 12 questions via email.
I would
Or
agree.
Rehash them
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
read the questions by email.
And once we hear back from Vertical Bridge, and if there is another public meeting scheduled, you'll all be advised. And I would hope that you would come this time.
Yeah, I
You were-
thought
You were not
this
at the
was.
last one.
No, I thought this was squashed. I thought that there was no way this community would allow that. And that's the thing, that's what everyone's saying, is how the heck did this happen here? Like, of all places, to sneak in a 5G tower, you put it here?
I'm sorry,
I
did
don't
you say,
believe
did
it
you
was
say
a
sneak in?
Yeah.
That's,
Your
that
terminology,
is
your
honestly,
terminology is a little offensive,
And
and I
I-
wasn't even on the board during this
Okay, and I-
negotiation.
great, and I
So, but I
apologize
have
for
to
that.
take
Yes,
umbrage
I
with
apologize,
this.
I'm not,
No.
I don't even know who's on the board and who's not. All I'm asking is for the information, one, to clear everybody's name. If there's no issue here, then why are we getting pushback? Like, why not just give the information?
What information
Without
haven't we
giving
released?
information.
I mean, had you been at the last public meeting, I think every board member that was there tried to be as honest and straightforward as they possibly could. I don't know what's being held back, so. And what could we say that would change your mind tonight?
I'm gonna send a list of questions, I guess, and you
I
guys
think
can
that would be
answer those
perfect.
thoroughly.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak about the cell phone tower tonight?
Will that meeting with Vertical Bridge be a public meeting or is that a private meeting for
Absolutely,
public?
every time we meet is a public meeting, and we had the last one at the community center, and everyone was invited to be there, and if we're able to schedule one, we'll be there again.
With that Vertical Bridge?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Annie?
I just want to say that we were at the meeting. Nonetheless, nothing was really accomplished there, except that perhaps now we've thought more about it and we've come to even more serious level of concern. There are many people here who feel the same way. And I applaud this young lady, this young teacher, to look at this from a legal point of view. Up to now, we've just been your citizens saying, no, we were not, the information was not made adequately public. You may have posted it on the outside of the building, we went over this before, but it was not understood by and large. By and large, we're so dang busy trying to just survive that if it wasn't actually on Facebook, because people actually look at Facebook more than they do the newspaper, If there was something in the newspaper, nobody was talking about it. The more time that goes on, the more seriously concerned we are, and we have many, many serious issues. It is a legal issue. And as far as long-term effects, we hold you all responsible. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh, I just, Mimi, is it still on your website?
I think so.
Amy
The public meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy recorded it, and
Okay.
if you wanna get it out, I think it's 100%, right? From me
Okay.
bawling to the very end.
People yelling and all that fun stuff? Yes, yeah, it's on
So
there.
I think you can get on and,
Okay, and pull all that.
and let people know that
Okay.
they can, because the questions that they're referring to
Mhm.
was, your answers will be on there too.
Okay, okay.
And Amy does a good job, I
Okay,
think
cool.
you can hear it and everything, so
Okay.
it's on her, so you might wanna get with her to
Okay.
see where it's
Good info.
on Facebook.
I just had two quick statements. One, I don't know if this board has seen the, Facebook post. I did share it, and I was gonna bring a copy to you all, but there was a school, and I can't remember where it was, but they had a cell phone tower placed on the top of their building, and now over several years of time, there were many, many teachers in that building who, now have cancer, and there's a lawsuit coming. And an investigation on the cell phone tower too. That was one. And the other statement, I don't know that the questions were answered in the meeting that we were at publicly. I know that you allowed people to talk, but one of the things that I was curious about was the last that we had spoken, or at the meeting, the very final part was that you guys were gonna go back to the attorney, see what the cost was maybe potentially to get out of the contract. And I had asked if that could be disclosed and what the cost would be, and you guys were not sure at that point in time. And then also, just that, we just haven't heard anything since then. So I was kind of wondering, like, did you do that, and what the cost was, and what's the potential to get out of it?
So, I think I gave a little bit of an update on the last meeting and the one before, that the board did meet in executive session with our attorney. We have posed all those questions, including the buyout possibility, to Vertical Bridge, and we've just been waiting for them to talk to each other, to tell us if they will come, when they will come, blah, 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 blah.
When did
So-
you speak to them?
The attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the date was, but it was an executive session that we're not disclosing, so.
The date's fine to know, but what we spoke of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably look at the calendar and maybe figure out when we did it. I don't know, was it last month? Does anybody have
Yeah.
a vague idea?
So when they make this decision, how much, time is the public gonna have to react? Is it gonna be more than a day? Is it gonna be a week, a month?
Well, as slowly as Vertical Bridge has been getting back to us on dialogue, I would imagine we'll know a ways in advance to be able to tell the public when it's gonna be. I can't give you a date right off the top
So
of
the
my
public
head.
meeting was, April 3rd.
But the private meeting.
I'm looking, the executive session meeting was, just
It was a
shortly
couple
thereafter,
days
I
after.
don't have the days.
Like that was one of the community center.
So May 11th, about what date? I'm
Well,
sorry.
the public meeting was April 3rd
Okay.
at the community center.
Very good, thank you.
And it was shortly after that, I don't have it on my phone right now, let's see.
Okay.
Oh, that's in
Actually, I do have it, it was April, it was tax day, April 15th,
Mm-hmm.
5:30 in the afternoon.
And you said they were potentially coming next week?
We don't know.
Oh.
They're talking to each other, Vertical Bridge and, what's it called?
Powder River
Powder
Development.
River Development are supposed to be having a conversation next week. We've submitted our questions, the ones that we talked about at the meeting, as far as options, the buyout, if that's possible, and the location. I don't remember the whole list off the top of my head. So that we're waiting for them to get back with us. And also we asked them if they would come and have a public meeting and answer questions in our community. And we have not received an answer about that yet either, so.
Okay. Do you feel that they are understanding that a lot of the community is not for this project.
Well, we told them these things based on the public meeting that we had, and those questions came out of that public meeting, so
Okay.
hopefully they would understand that we wouldn't be asking these things if we didn't think that there was some opposition, so.
Thank you.
Was that before or after the contract was signed?
Well, the contract was signed last year. Anyone else?
So it wasn't until after the contract was signed that we went to the community to get opposition, or was there not that information available prior?
It was available, but there was a lot, just like you said, there was a lot of people upset. They asked if we could have a public meeting to go over the course of what had gone on. He said, yes, we would do that. So we had the public meeting in April down at the community center. The other public hearings that were posted on this were in the boardroom here. And
So
there
the
was
public meeting before this was signed was when?
I can't tell you all that off the top of my
Do
head.
do you have any numbers of how many names have been turned in by the petitions?
Yes, Ms. Jane turned in the petition at our last meeting.
It was like 107, 40 from the
107.
town of Nucla.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a clarification. The way I understood it is that we recognized because the cell tower, yes, is a Nucla issue, but people outside of Nucla can have a concern
Of
as
course.
valid as
Yeah.
this isn't like water, sewer, or anything, it's, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes. Especially parents with
Cool.
students at the school.
Yeah, that's
Because
one thing
that's
that I feel like
the
hasn't
biggest-
been fully taken into account, is that every parent I've spoken with has asked me what I'm gonna do with my kids, cause they're not gonna send their kids back there, which the school relies on funding based on head count.
What is that?
Was this considered before it was signed?
I don't know that there was any discussion regarding the relationship to the school that I recall. Does anyone else?
It just willy-nilly, like,
So
put there?
the contractor was looking for a location on property that the town of Nucla owned.
Okay.
That's why the town of Nucla is even involved in this conversation, is they were looking for property to put a cell tower on that was owned by the town. So they looked at the brush dump, we asked them to look at Mustang Water Authority where the treatment plant is. This was a location where there was already a tower. We also talked about the sewer treatment facility. Some of them didn't meet the needs of the contractor, so they were the Mustang Water Treatment Facility. I don't know what their reasons was. It kind of sits down, out there, maybe not on a higher, is that it?
I mean, you're looking at, they run their analysis based on how well you get reception where they want it to be, and Mustang Water's in a hole. So obviously that wasn't a choice for them. The brush dump is, but there were concerns that it was going to be, number one, it is not isolated. Again, you have people all along the ridge up there. It's not by the school, so to speak, but it is, you're still got somebody that's going to get theoretically exposed to the same stuff. Plus, we didn't really care to have the antenna used as a target practice, so. I mean,
So
that
you
was
really
that.
thought like somebody's gonna get exposed while doing it to the children? Like, holy moly.
5G is a short wave. It's not a long wave.
It pulses there, and that's what causes the damage.
But it's not just like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's a big
It's
deal.
just
Nobody
cool.
said
You
anything's
can
cool.
have your objections and you
Well,
can.
why would we enter a contract with those kind of dangers for $800 a month? Like, that's what's mind blowing
Would
to
it be
me. Is
better
like,
if we charged like $2,500 a month?
yeah, or maybe we
And
get
so
like
those
town
would be
improvements.
considered
I mean, it would make
acceptable.
sense. It would make sense though, if we did it for more. Like, we could kind of justify that a little bit. This is like,
I don't know how do you justify that. Let's
well,
have
it's your
order.
employees in order, there should be like a
We
price
need to
tag.
have order, please. I don't have my gavel, sorry. I was gonna bang on this. Oh, that works.
That works.
Does the town own that property that Clear Networks putting their stuff on? They don't own that?
Are you talking about where the old hilltop was?
Yeah, well, where you turn to go to the airport, or you go that way right on the
That's
corner?
their property. They own
That's
it.
theirs, okay. Cause my understanding was they were gonna put a tower up there too, also.
Haven't heard that. No.
Yeah.
I would think that would be a little bit of with the airport, but
That would be a better location.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere, really.
But Montrose County's gonna allow that?
Well, the town didn't have control of anywhere, they had control of the land that we own,
Well,
and that's why they came to us. So
Sure.
a lot of people have said, well, put it at the airport, well, then they need to
But
go
why
contract
would we
Montrose
even
County.
discuss this contract for $800 a month period? Like, what about it sounded like a good idea? Like, you had to have known that the town wasn't gonna be like cool with it, right? Like, you had to have known there was gonna be pushback, so who benefits from it? $800 a month for the town, that's nothing. And then they can they can make money on top of money on top of money on it. Plus they can control all their surveillance, all the fencing. They're essentially setting up their own little corporate town within our town. And we don't have control over it then.
I think the thinking that the board had during the conversations, that it wasn't just about money, like everything in our lives are, but it was about public benefit, and we did think that there was people in our community that would benefit
Like
from.
who exactly? Like what
Well,
demographic were you
Had you
thinking?
come to the other meeting, there was also people there that are in favor.
Like,
So
well,
it's, you
what
know,
demographic did you guys have in mind when you thought this would be good for the community? Can you, I don't need names, but like, were you
People
thinking
that
it'd be good
use
for the
other
elderly?
service besides NNTC or would like a choice?
And they don't
Do
have
you-
access to any of the current providers?
I don't know, you can go ask them.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
just,
there's
I'm
people
just
that come to
curious
us
about
that
the
don't like
reasoning,
service.
because I'm really confused.
I can answer what demographic could benefit from it. I work with several families who don't have access to things like Cricket Mobile, that's like $30 a month. I work with several families that have small children that can't afford NNTC and they don't have cell phones. During the pandemic, we were trying to use hotspots for a lot of these kids to access school, and because we didn't have a major carrier, they didn't work very well here. And a lot of those children that live far below the poverty line were unable to access internet.
I just feel like the town is too accommodating on the decision. Like, that's not something that we should get in the business of doing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I think that we've acknowledged that, like I said before, there's many things that we could have certainly done better. And at this point, all we can do is try to correct what we are able to correct. And what that looks like, we still are not sure what it looks like.
But
So,
I'll make a point. NNTC has a sweetheart deal too, so I don't see anybody right to complain about it.
I don't know what that means.
It's basically they pay almost nothing and they have no real, they
have a
have
tower
a
up
lease
here
on
already.
a tower.
But how does that have anything to do with you guys putting up a 5G tower?
But they're gonna be 5G.
Are they?
Oh,
Do they have,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
you
they're-
did it
they're-
based
they're
on fear
upgrading.
that they might just sneak in 5G and not be up
Why
against
do
the
you
same?
throw out hyperbole statements?
Well, because you're saying that that's your reason why you did it.
You just want exaggeration, I don't understand that, you're just trying
But
to.
why would you
build
bring
the
up NNT?
situation.
They're not relevant to me in the conversation.
They are relevant to the situation because this is bringing in competition. The town doesn't go out and seek this. It is brought in,
But
but we
is
don't
it
stop
competition
it.
when it's $800? And why are we bringing competition against our own business owners?
NNTC is unaffordable.
Okay, I get it. I'm not,
No.
I get that
And
part.
this isn't out to get NNTC or anything, this is just competition. Somebody approached us and says, hey, we would like to put this in. And there are plenty of, my wife is one, she's had terrible service multiple times with various vendors. I have NNTC for my phone, but that doesn't mean that somebody else wants to have NNTC.
Sure, everyone would appreciate better service, but as the town board, couldn't you work out a deal with NNTC that give access to lower income people that need it? And
So
maybe work
NNTC 's
another
bad.
deal that could do another tower, work with them? I don't care about NNTC, that's not my fight. My dog's not in that fight, my dog is the fight you guys are trying to put right there in front of the school. So,
have you guys considered the fact that even though NNTC doesn't have 5G right now, do you think that they're not gonna wanna provide that for their
maybe because the
customers?
town put together a clause that if they're gonna do that, they have to follow X, Y, Z. Or maybe now that we have all of our heads in the room, we can put together some kind of ruling for when there's contracts of this nature. That it's not just up to the board doing them willy-nilly on their own and hoping it works out for the best.
So do you have a law degree that is, overstates what, our town attorney, which is a group of several attorneys?
That is leading into my questions on who handled this.
Our attorneys for the town.
And was
which
the
is a
only,
group.
who else communicated with the attorney? Which members of the board were active in that discussion?
This board
Okay,
communicated with
and
them.
all of those records, and yeah, maybe your attorney wasn't great. No, towns our size are getting $1,400 a month for this. And a 50-year lease.
So
And answer why did the clauses that
So
were
it's,
in
I hear from you, it's very contradictory. You talk about the health concerns, but if we got more money out of it, it'd be okay.
No,
Well,
it would be
that's what you said.
understandable.
I don't get that.
Because you're gonna sort us out for $800.
We're gonna move forward. This is ridiculous. You're hijacking our meeting on something that is ridiculous. So if you want to come to the next public meeting, you'll get your timed amount to address the board and beat us up on whatever you need to that time. So
That's not my intent here. It's
that's how
honestly
you're
just
coming
to
off,
get
and we're done.
answers.
We're moving forward. We'll move on to our special districts and our other reports here. First one is West End Economic Development. Have you guys had a meeting since the last?
No.
Okay, so
But
no report.
Michaela has made the announcement that she's going to be cutting her hours back because she's taking a part-time job in school. So I believe you were.
In August.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tiffany is definitely taking up this.
All right, so Mustang Water Authority, we did have a meeting, and I give all my notes to Terry. So there was quite a lot of discussion around the line,
The shared line.
the line that comes from the treatment plant to 29 Road. And so I was telling Tim, one of the things that the board had asked me to do was contact Patrick Rondinelli regarding some possible funding and some other options to get that line scoped, replaced, slip line, whatever options might be available, and what kind of funding, how quickly we could get on that. So, I have emailed Patrick, he hasn't been available, I'm hoping we're having a phone conversation tomorrow to get some more
We have a
information.
meeting with him next week.
Yeah,
don't
you
we?
may not get with him because I know that I remember he is in some conferences.
Well, he emailed me and said that he had some time tomorrow, so
Okay.
I guess
Maybe
that
he
would
has
be
a
up to
break.
him.
I just
don't know.
remember he's squeezing us in on the 4th in
Yeah.
between conferences.
So that's kind of one of the most, critical things I believe we talked about, but Tim, I'm gonna let you give a little bit more of the report.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, just hit the high points.
Well, I mean, really, the issue comes down between Nucla and every Mustang Water and the contract is, of course, who pays for what and how much. So that's what it's always gonna be. And, so it's basically, there was a fair bit of discussion about, divvying up how much of Mustang Water's budget each town's been paid, and whether it would still stay 60-40, or it would be based on something else, and which of course comes back to ownership of the lines, or I should say operation of lines, because Mustang owns the lines. Nucla operates part, Agri operates part, and those costs are, for repair of those lines are Nucla's operation, they pay for repairs. Natalie's operation, they pay for repairs. So getting that contract negotiated and finalized comes down to dicing out who's going to be responsible for what in the end, and then how much that share of Mustang's budget is going to be for each town. Otherwise, there was some discussion about the CC ditch and the water rights and moving water rights up to the CC ditch head gate, which right now the lawyer we have hired to file on those to move our water rights at an alternate diversion point up to the CC ditch head gate, which the CC ditch company has verbally okayed, nothing committed on paper, that they will. The lawyer says we're gonna have to hire a hydrologist, basically. She said a water engineer, but basically a hydrologist to determine flows and how that will impact the river and the CC ditch, water rights and whatnot, and then the water rights among various other shareholders' rights in the river too. So that's where that stands. I got a couple names. I have one callback. I had one company say that they couldn't do it because potential conflicts of interest as far as the hydrologist goes. I do have a callback to do on another hydrologist, and that's going to be another cost on top of the lawyer for getting that alternate diversion point down. So, and the towns are splitting those costs 50-50. That's where that stands.
Did the attorney ever get the signature from
Yes,
the
I asked her
previous one?
specifically. She said she did get that.
So Tim, after the the hotel in Navarrete sells and they become permanent apartments, full-time apartments, and occupied 100%, is that gonna re-proportion the cost between Nucla and Navarrete?
It
Or are we
could.
still gonna be eating the 60%?
That's tough to say, because quite frankly, until we can figure out where all the bloody leakage is, Navarrete has a dedicated meter for the water that goes to them, so it's subtracted from the meter at the water treatment plant, the main meter, that says how much water's going into the whole system, and then you subtract Navarrete's water that comes off of their meter reading from that, and then Nucla is considered to own the rest of that. So right now, it still runs right about 60-40.
So do all of our meters that's being billed, does that make up the difference, or is there still a gap?
There's a big gap.
There's a huge water.
Yeah.
That's what Charlene was talking
And
about
that's,
at the last meeting.
I actually printed off and shared with the MWA board our reports here at Nucla for 2024, 23, and 22, where in 2024 we had over 51% of unaccounted for water between what they're saying we used and what we're billing for. And the year prior to that, 2023, it was a little over 41%, and 2022 was just a little over 37%. So each year it's gotten worse. And so that's one of the reasons we've been talking about this shared line that provides all the water that's coming from the plant to 29 Road and then goes to the tanks. We're thinking that's a good place to start because of the leak report that we talked about, I think, meeting before last.
Well, it's an old concrete asbestos line. It's what, from the mid-70s at the latest is when it was put in.
12,000 feet.
So, and it's busted twice during the years. The conundrum in this is that Nucla, there's service lines off that main line that Nucla gets revenue from. So this has always been an arguing point between the two towns. So that's the main point.
Because that line was originally the town of Nucla's when our water treatment plant was out there before we combined with Navarrete from the same water authority. So that's why they couldn't afford to put in a new line for Navarrete or both lines. They used our existing facility, which already had the taps. It's not like we've tapped new lines
No, they're just
or new services out there. They were already existing.
And I understand that part, I just can't figure out if we know there's a loss, why are we eating the loss? Instead of going back
Well,
to Navarrete
so
and saying, okay, we
technically,
can-
Jim, we aren't, I mean, we're eating per the contract that we were gonna do the 60% in 2004, then the contract just expired. So we're not technically being charged per gallon, so we're not eating the loss. We're just wondering if it's really, are we really, when the Mustang Water was created, it was a 60-40 split. Nucla was bigger. We had more water taps. We had more, I don't know if we had any more businesses, but we had more residents. So that's how they came to the numbers of the 60-40 split initially. And they needed to have, in order to qualify for their grants, they had to have a set income. So Nucla was 60% at whatever rate it was then. It's gone up, I believe, twice since the beginning. And then Navarrete was 40% based on the numbers. That's why we need to look at the big picture again and find out, maybe we're equal now. Maybe Navarrete is bigger. Maybe,
Maybe
we don't know until we can not lose
And maybe not,
50% of our water.
Right.
The other thing is this is, just so you think, this is not particular to this area. It is rampant through all of rural Colorado. It's also rampant through the entire country that you have these kind of water loss numbers. It's not as bad in the big cities because they can afford to just jack the rates and put in whatever it takes.
Well, and then they also have developments that put in new lines, and when they put in new lines, then they have to upgrade the existing main that they're tapping into and that kind of thing. Whereas we don't have new developments here that, I don't know, Sean Lee, I think was the last development.
But it even happens in the big cities, because Broomfield right now is gonna jack their rates like over 100%, because their infrastructure is to the point, like us, where they have to do major work. So, yeah, it's not uncommon. We really want to do something about it. It's gonna be what is the cost, ultimately, and what is the benefit.
So you gotta go back to revisit the population between both towns for reapportioning values or the cost at that point. I understand we have the water loss now, but if they're getting people moving in down there, they're using more water, then it should be shipping more than 50/50 versus the 60/40.
But so far, it doesn't really show that. And they do have a dedicated meter that says exactly what goes down there. Now, it's a turbine meter, so it's more prone to falling out of calibration, so they have to calibrate it more frequently than our mag meters on the main plant. But, there isn't, I'm not gonna say it's necessarily gonna change.
That's common sense, Jim.
One of the things that we just wanna mention is we are still planning to have a joint meeting between the Mustang Water Board, Nucla's board, and Natarita's. It's looking like it's most likely gonna be late June to early July by the time we get everything done. Mustang Water Board will organize the meeting, and we're putting together an agenda of all the questions that the three entities need to discuss to move forward with some things, so.
But what's new in this last year or two is that Natarita is much more willing to discuss shared cost issues.
Well, yeah, the pot tax is coming in pretty good.
Well, I think it's just, we just have a much better working relationship with that board is working together, and I think that's what's making it better.
So is that question for reapportionment on the, one of the potential questions to discuss is, I know it says that there may not be change, but there may be, because we don't know until those numbers are looked at, right?
Yeah.
Is what you had said. So is that question on for that agenda?
I can't imagine it won't be discussed just with all the other things that we're gonna be, trying to work through, so. The other thing too, I'm gonna forget this, cause I did last time, so when we pumped from this spring from the river, there was a question on how we were going to proportion the power bill for the pumping. And so if this board is in agreement, I think Jean was gonna take it to Natarita last night, we would split it 60/40, 60 Natarita, 40 Nucla, for the power bill this time, but we have also made it super clear to them that our river rights are being leased up river, and we don't have to pump like they do to get their water to the reservoir. So even though we wanna make sure that diversion point is being exercised every year because it is the town of Nucla's, that we probably would look to reproportion that power
And
bill.
didn't we pump before the ditch came in?
We
So
did.
our river rights are available up
Yes.
until, irrigation season, so, which is like the end of March, beginning of April through October. So
We still
during
show
that
the
time,
usage.
then we show usage of our individually Nucla's own shares of river waters.
Which is super important that we
Yeah.
do that, and we have been doing that, so is it agreeable to this board to remain at the 60/40 this time? Okay.
This time, yeah.
So, Terry will send out a copy of the invoices or copy of the bills from Samuel Power and the invoices with that.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
Tim, you may have said, I think I missed it. Did you were gonna call about somebody running a camera down the line?
Yeah.
Did you get?
I did touch base with the company we'd gotten a quote from before. Their price is now basically almost double. For one thing, they added an extra, they had based their original quote on 2 days. They charge you by the day. They charge you an initial fee to come out, set everything up, get all the personnel on site, get all the background information into collated, and then they come out and they charge you per day for when they're actually running the video system. They upped that to 3 days from 2 days, so that added an extra cost of $16,000 on this. It used to be $19,000, so that's down a little bit. So, and then we want them to map the line horizontally and vertically. And to do that, they have to run someone on the surface over the line while they're running the camera through the line, to record where exactly the camera is at all times. So that adds an extra $8,000 or so to do that, and then there's coming out and doing the extra work on the mapping itself, turning out the extra product as far as the map goes. But so we're up to $107,000 for that. The likelihood of us getting that done this year is not high. They only run to the winter. We would have to come up with a funding source
Quickly.
from between now and September at the very latest, and have them on site and get their work done within that time frame to fit within their schedule, because they mainly do big cities. I mean, let's face it, that's where the bulk of their work is.
And that goes back to my call to Patrick Brontinelli with DOLA, was to see if there was any funding that was readily available for us to use for this.
But if not, that is something that we can put in a long-term plan or our plans to
A short-term plan.
Short-term, maybe a long-term,
Within
just a
next
plan.
year.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. I think it's also, one of the things that I found out is that, so we have leakage in Nucla by thousands of gallons. And whether it's hurting anything or not, the plant is making clean water just to leak out to nowhere.
We're
And so-
recharging groundwater.
Yeah, right, there's a cheaper way.
They should be getting a medal for environmental stewardship.
Yeah, but I'm learning a lot, so the parts and pieces to that plant is very expensive. So if we can reduce the wear and tear on the plant, just the filters alone, I mean, my goodness sakes.
Yes,
So I
cost us,
think
we're
that's-
ordering new filters now, that's
Yeah.
that's $50,000. The, right now I am running flows through the plant that were, basically, I don't generally see till mid-July.
So that's a lot of wear and tear, so I mean, just to keep it.
That was one of the other big triggers the board pulled at the last meeting, was the expenditure of the $50,000 for the filters. Kind of been kicking that can down the road a little bit, and so, we still have original, I don't know how many original call filters we have on the plant,
And we're
but
about 22. So we're ordering 24 new filters with the existing new filters that we put in 2018. And of course the state spanked us. But so when that's done, throughput will go through the plant will be better. And we're building a lot of the systems, we're rebuilding a lot of valve systems and whatnot, so we'll be set for high flows, but we really don't want to be there. We want to ratchet that down as much as possible, make that plant last as long as possible.
anything else from Western Water? We had a really productive meeting, I will tell you, it was good, so. Did you think so?
Yeah, I did, I learned a lot.
Yeah. Alright, so,
I just need to ask one more question.
No.
On Mustang Water. Did you guys ever get any more of a forgiveness on the penalty in the state of Colorado?
we did, it went from like 37 or 38,000 to 31 and some change. And we set up a payment plan with them, we're waiting for, what's the name of that thing we're waiting on?
Compliance.
Some sort of a compliance document of some sort that's coming from the state that we agreed upon that, so.
Okay. Can we ever revisit it for another forgiveness request?
I didn't feel like it, no.
No.
Okay.
Because they already felt like they
Yeah.
gave us a sweet deal from the get-go on what it could have
Yeah,
been.
actually, they could have denied us what they renewed us on. It was basically, I said, well, this is not really a problem. And they went ahead and let that go by, so they cut $8,500 off. Plus, they did give us 10 or I think around 20% off the top, cut off the top, just because of the disadvantaged community type stuff that we deal with. So they cut that off the top. It would have been well over $40,000 to begin with, and they chopped it down to about 38, and then they chopped another 8,000 off, so it came down around, like Paula said, around 30,000. And they allowed us to spread that penalty payment out so that we can maintain money in our Colo trust to earn more interest.
So there'll be a couple small payments and then a bigger payment at the end, so we're holding more of our money in Colo Trust to gain as much interest as we can before we have to shell it out to the state, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Are you still looking into funding sources? Do you have assistance with that, like enough manpower for looking for those grant sources of any kind of funding to assist with the repairs,
We have
With
3
fees.
employees. We have Tim, who's the plant manager, we have an administrative assistant, Terry Hunter, who's very part-time. And then, Bill, how many hours is his again?
He's about 20 hours a week.
so, but is that enough? Is that enough? Like, I mean, and I'm talking like volunteer status, like, would it be helpful if you had extra people looking for
Grants.
funding sources?
I think once we identified some more of the things that we need to go after them for, there's always a need for that type of thing, yes. So, I would say
Water
yes.
funding sources, there are a lot of them, but they're heavily competitive too,
Yeah.
because there are so many towns like ours in Colorado and all over the nation.
Which is one reason for video on the line and whatnot, is you could perhaps play that into, is this an emergency situation, is it not?
Right.
Emergency funding is much more readily available, so at much reduced cost.
So it's looking like that's probably gonna be the first step to get that videoed and then replace parts if we have to, honestly.
We're just
Or
trying
the
to
whole
get-
thing if we absolutely have to.
Yeah, trying to nail down the funding just to get the assessment done and then see what that looks like to proceed forward, so, yeah. Okay, Chamber of Commerce, we haven't had a meeting, I'll just tell you real quick, we're doing the same things we always do. So, the next thing coming up is the Jeep Tour, and, we still have about 6 spaces left if anybody wants to go with us.
What
So-
date is that?
June 14th. And if you are interested, you can go to the Chamber's website and sign up on the events page there. It's gonna be a very scenic tour this year, one of the most scenic ones I think I've been on. It will be really good, so, yeah.
Saw a couple of Don Culford's preliminary
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah. I put out some sneak peek photos today too of a few things. We've been out several times and rode this particular trail that we selected, and it's got a lot to offer. We actually had to cut it down because we didn't have enough time to do everything we wanted to do, and get back for dinner at a reasonable time. So.
How many people did roll so far?
We take 30, and so we're at 24, I think, this afternoon. We usually fill up, and I would not be surprised that we'll be very close, so, yeah.
Yeah, you can count me in if I could get some of that iron out of my driveway.
Nothing rolls? We're not dragging you out. No. Alright, there hasn't been a housing committee meeting for quite some time. And Aline, did you have a Wednesday report?
We did have one, I haven't got anything from, I was gone, I had to fly out that day, so I didn't make the meeting. But, I'm gonna meet with Deb and she's gonna update me. She
Okay.
said she had some exciting stuff to share.
Alright,
So,
we'll hear from you next time then on that.
I will be prepared.
Alright, we're gonna go to our staff and department reports. Melissa?
So I did a draft agenda for a meeting that you guys scheduled for the 2nd, which is Monday, so that I can have it posted by tomorrow afternoon, because we don't work on Fridays.
Yeah,
Changes, questions?
Yeah, I'd like to have the board visit about this a little bit. I did mention it to Melissa yesterday, exactly what we are looking to accomplish with this first work session regarding the ADUs. I think we need to have a more specific agenda than this is a start, but I think we need to have a very specific agenda of what we're gonna work on. And I also want to just throw out there for the board's consideration, if we use this opportunity as a listening session, potentially, to hear from the community, versus a work session that you as a board is gonna detail out which components that we wanna chat about or potentially change. So I guess I'd like to hear back, and then I think that would help us form a better agenda for this meeting.
I'm sorry, didn't you already have a listening session? Weren't you and Tim at what was essentially a listening session?
There were
we all watched.
4 of them that I,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was able to listen remotely once, that was better.
But they were hard listening sessions.
I kind of feel like this needs to be a work session, because at our last board meeting, people were in the public and they were just stating their concerns, but they're looking to us, like I said last time, they're looking to us to give some direction. So I think we should use this as a work session, come up with our best ideas,
Yeah.
and then bring it out and let people comment on it, give their ideas on it.
I think I'd like to see you guys nail down what you're looking to make, what changes you're looking to make in the ordinances and the code.
Okay.
I mean, you need to decide where we're gonna start with that, because if we just go in open-ended here, you know, and you
Yeah,
also have the
right.
draft that you received from Jamie, that was in your packets to take a look at too, so is that something that you would like to discuss that further? And how do we wanna approach it?
This ordinance draft, this is what Jamie drafted, this is what I'm looking
Yeah.
at here?
Yes.
Okay, I thought that was
Yes.
what it was.
I mean, she's got the right idea. She's starting with just defining what is and is not allowable. I don't know that I'm 100% on board with everything in this document, but she's taking a stab at it, and it's a good place to start.
It's well written, yeah, I'm in agreement, there's certain things that I don't necessarily, am not totally okay with.
Yeah, and I think as we go through and we talk about, the different parts of this, we just need to know, like, I'm gonna have some things that I wanna bring to the board, and there's a reason for it. The one thing we can't do is go through and just come up with something without a reason behind it, right? Because I think that's where people
Is
get very angry.
Is there an option for that to be combined as a work and listening to where if you go through, because again, that was the next meeting that I was hoping to schedule would be go through that working ordinance as like a line item and discuss each line item versus the way that it was run is that it just went through the whole thing super quick and then a lot of those personal grievances were run up instead. So as a working session to go through each line item and then as a listening session at the same time to see what the community concerns of, do you like this? Do you not like this? What is your legitimate reason for not liking this? Please don't talk about your neighbor right now.
Well, I don't really think it's up to us to decide if one person's or other person's is a legitimate concern. I mean, if your concern is legitimate to you, then it's legitimate, right? And same with anyone else. So it needs to be constructive though. We need to come up with solutions opposed to, arguments. And I also think that in fairness to the citizens that are wanting to make changes, I think that it needs to be really clear from this board what they are willing to look at making changes to, instead of just throwing everything out there, the whole ball of wax, and then it comes back in here and there's 6 items and on 5 of them this board's not gonna entertain changing. That's why I'm saying
Exactly.
I'd rather be realistic about what the board is really willing to make those changes to than give hope to something that's not gonna happen.
Which would make sense for that work session first, right?
Yeah.
Is like that difference.
And
Okay.
the work session is gonna be like what we had this evening. It's not gonna, it's going to encompass the citizens that are there. So I just don't want it to turn into a griping session as
Right.
we've had before, and for it to get very, very personal, because that's not the basis of what we're gonna change code and ordinances about. It's gonna be for the whole town, all of our citizens, so.
Because people can still apply for a variance on a case-by-case basis, whether the board accepts it or not, they can still apply for one.
Yeah, there just needs to be some better guidelines for when those things come before the board, so that it's more consistent and fair to all the citizens, instead of just
So far, you've granted every application that's come before the board, except for one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not like we have not been reasonable in our, granting of variances, and
But it's
I don't feel
But
it's
it's
been
also-
portrayed
But
as
you need to
such.
have more
Well, yeah, because
specific reason.
Well, and this will allow
Stick
for
with
less
it.
paperwork in the long run too, having, again, in the long run, obviously immediately it would be a little bit more paperwork to have the initial setup, but for the variances, I feel like might end up being more paperwork in the long run, isn't it? Paperwork and man hours, so by having that ordinance, as agreed upon by the town and the board and the community, makes it a little bit more manageable than those variances, it seems like.
I think there's a lot we have to take into consideration, and I don't think that this process can be just a quick 3-meeting plan like was done here. I just don't see that that's gonna get the best resolution that we want,
Right.
so.
well,
There's
we have
gotta
to,
be more
we have
thought.
to address this because also there are things coming up. SMPA's proposed solar plant. They're figuring they're gonna, regardless of what they say about hiring local, the odds are they're gonna be bringing in,
Mhm.
and they're already talking about running RVs and
Yeah.
whatnot, because there will be no hotel down there. So,
So there's a little bit of an urgency to it as well, to
yeah,
need to make progress.
we don't wanna have RV parks in the middle of town park, so.
No, absolutely.
So work session, is that
Yes.
the direction, okay, with the course of listening. Listening, of course. So specifically, do you guys want to review Jamie's proposal here to start with? Is that part of what you'd like to start with, or what we're,
I have only read through it briefly, so I haven't really, there's already something I can't agree to more than, frankly, one on any property.
Yeah.
We're not gonna open the door to having 10 RVs just because you have 10 acres.
Yeah,
I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, it is.
I think we just compare it against what we've got, and then
we'll open the discussion there.
Yep.
And then we'll probably be able to go through the needs more time and more information versus the things that maybe this board says together, yeah, I don't see us going that way or whatever. At least we can, I just fear that we give a lot of hope to something here. And I wanna make sure that we're not letting people down by spending all this time working on it and then potentially not improving it the way it is. I mean, we're gonna have to have that dialogue, so. All right. Okay, is that helpful?
Yeah.
Is that helpful to you and then these guys?
I'll just,
Okay. Yeah, we'll just be doing a review of the proposed here
if we
as
could
well
just
as
do
the
it, if we could do
existing.
if we could do a review of our current
I'll
ordinances.
upload the current
Yep.
code that specifically speaks about travel in RV. And then,
Perfect.
And
and then this.
We'll
And
we'll
you
take
can
it,
kind of
we
see
can
it next to
individually
each
take
other,
it
yeah.
against
and we
this,
can just,
exactly.
check the differences.
Yep.
And that's still scheduled for the second at the community center, right?
Yes.
Next Monday, yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry, I interrupted your report.
That's okay, no, I needed to get that so I could have an agenda to post. So back to enforcement, because I didn't really think we got anywhere last time on where to, point us in the right direction. I've been driving around a little bit and I see a lot of fire hazards, a lot of dead trees. Trees are in full bloom now, and if they're not, they're dead. And tall grasses. I have seen some people mowing recently their tall grasses, so that's great. But we had talked about putting out an educational piece as far as like an article in the paper and then a poster around town letting them know these are the things that we're looking for. This is when we'll start enforcement, and we'll base it all on whatever enforcement time frame is listed for nuisances in our area, in our nuisance ordinance. So I wanna know if that's a area you wanna go with, or if you wanna tackle trash or junk, or just not.
I think with the dryness of this year and the lack of water, I think it's important to address it.
Fire is a good place to start, because it's a very
It's a safety
definite
issue.
line, exactly, it's a line in the sand.
No, I'm gonna say one thing though, I'm not cutting down my hanging tree.
Is it dead?
I've had
dead?
5 elk on that tree at one time before, and I am not cutting it down.
As long as it
Hang
does
on.
not have a ton of branches that can go onto your neighbor's property.
Bark's all stripped off of it,
It's yard art. That's what I just told him, yard art. I mean, get creative, man. No.
Yard art.
Apply for a
Now
variance.
the rest of my
How does anybody feel about addressing also properties with excessive, not household trash, but trash in general? Like couches that have been outside for months.
Especially after we just had cleanup day, I thought I would see a lot of
Wrecked
those gone.
vehicles that are just backed in and left and different things like that.
I don't think that would hurt either.
A warning would be nice at first, I think.
Well, and we do that. We always give out the warning and give them 30 days, We don't expect all this to be done overnight, but then at some point in time, if they don't comply, then there needs to be consequences to that. that lack of action.
I really love that idea that Melissa said about putting like, this is what we're looking for, this is what we're going to enforce, and if you don't have it done by this date, you're gonna get a piece of paper in the mail. I think that addresses a lot of, well, this came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. We just now have time. But I think that would go far in the current issues of openness and communication and clarity.
And just because some people just don't realize that we have these ordinances on the books.
Exactly.
With this being said, what about doing another dumpster midsummer? And then one in the fall?
How much did that last
So,
one cost us?
it was a lot. I don't know off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but there was a lot. Like 9 dumpsters, I think
Had
is
to be
what.
close to 7.
I think Cubby said we went through 9 or maybe 8 trash in one middle, I can't remember.
I want to say 9.
Yeah, so I don't have that cost right here, but I'll get it for you. Yes, we could hold one whenever you guys wanna hold one. We just don't. I mean, we'd have to pull it either from the October, the one that's scheduled in October, we'll pull that one.
That's right. Dump your trash, play the splash pad.
There's a lot of people.
Except the
can't
splash
go there
pad's
to pick
broken
up
right now,
stuff and
so,
haul it off.
sorry,
They can't
guys.
afford it.
Well, one
Like-
thing, go ahead.
I think if we see that there's a number of citations that are building up, then we know, like, we need to do a dumpster day to help people out.
Mm-hmm.
But if, there's 1 or 2, maybe it's not worth it. But I have a feeling once these citations start going out,
We just get the address list, yeah.
and then let everybody know.
Well, and the, one thing I noticed when I was down in Junction, when they have their cleanup days, I mean, they set everything, people set everything out there. I realize we can't do that because, trash isn't gonna do that. And I think, John, you guys did that, right? You went around and,
They did.
They did, the VFW.
so that was
They helped
something,
the
maybe
Brooke.
that's.
And Brooke had it.
And True North.
Brooke,
Yeah,
Brooke has some, I mean, maybe that's something, people, like Scott said, you can't afford or you're not able to do it. There's a lot of elderly that, maybe can't do it. They
It's
wanna
just
clean
like
it.
So
the
just,
one
you
here
need
on
to
here.
let us know, and then we'll assist you at the next cleanup day, getting rid of it, and you have,
Yeah, as long as it's,
a
the only thing I didn't like about Junction was that people piled stuff out in the gutters and it sat there for a week. So I don't know what that was, you couldn't even park your car up there. A lot of the
Lots
streets.
of people like me to go through all that good stuff, and
So,
come on.
I don't
I
know
only
if you
did
guys
one thing this time.
all remember, but I talked to Melissa and Brooke about this the other day, but back when Pam Curtis was on the board, we had done some flyers and stuff that could go on social media and they could be printed to go out, and then she wrote some articles to go in the newspaper about certain things. I think we did the animal control ordinances and stuff first, and then we had a cleanup one too, which I think is that, Charter
The
14
nuisance,
portion
yeah.
of the nuisance and abatement and stuff. But I found those flyers, I don't have the articles that Pam wrote, but I'll send those out to all of you guys to take a look at. I think they just need refurbished, but it has a pretty good cross-section of the code in there, and then a link to the town's website for, to get into the details of it. And it's just basically saying that we're trying to educate, about the ordinances before the enforcement stuff, so that it gives people a chance to, clean things up or whatever might need to be done before warnings are given and all that, so. Is that agreeable
I
to
think
do
that's
something of
very
that nature
agreeable.
again? And I'll send it to you guys to look at what was done before, and then we can recreate it a little bit, so. If you're agreeing.
So who's the writer on the board?
That one.
Huh?
That one.
I think it should go to the
I remember
newest
some
member
great
of the
writing
board.
that you did for the paper at one time.
Yeah, those Freddy
Board
stories.
like to
Right,
dive
I
in.
love them, I miss them.
Freddy Chronicles.
What was that? The Freddy Chronicles, or the dogs, whichever.
We need something to go along with the visual things, the visual flyers and stuff that we can put in the newspaper. So, don't all raise your hand at once, but we can all point our fingers in the right direction anyway.
I'm good with Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
pass
have,
the
I'm
buck.
gonna have a lot of people going, how ironic, he's right.
I don't know, they might look at some of my properties and think, what the hell is she? No, I can try to help out in any way.
Now, we probably could ask Pam to share her original articles if you wanted
Oh,
something.
yeah.
I mean, I think she would be willing to do that. I just didn't
I
have
would
copies of
totally,
it.
yeah, I think I probably do still have some of that.
And I have the papers.
Okay. Right, so that'll be, so is everybody, did you get the direction you needed there? Okay.
Yep,
all right.
perfect. Moving on, water and sewer, our DSV, which is discharge specific variance, has a reporting deadline of June 30th, so we need to hire an engineer to complete this. It is a small item, and we've reached out to both Nick and Element. Element is our current engineer, and Jeremy at Westwater, they were the old engineer at the plant. Both are interested and think it can be done quickly and reasonably, so I'll let you know how much that next meeting, I'm sure.
Yeah, Westwater kind of shot Jeremy. They went way, they got very expensive. I know a lot of people
Yeah.
dropped Westwater.
Because Steve retired, yeah, but he said he'd give us a price and timing and everything, so. So we are, the facilities, Vertical Bridge has a meeting with Powder River Development, so we will set a date for a phone call and hopefully move forward with the public meeting from there, or them at least answering the questions that we proposed. I will let you know when I hear back from them. Streets, Williams is still shooting for completion in early June. We'll send in the last day request on the 9th for approval on the 11th. This is not, and then we'll have them retain it in late June, early July. I'd like to go into executive session to discuss the library director position this evening, and I have permission from our current library director to do that. We need to see the letter that she can't be here, so she said just speak without her.
I'm saying that she's okay.
And then we're just gonna transfer out of capital improvement to cover the Williams check, and CDOT is about a 15-day turnaround, which is not as bad as I expected, so we won't be missing out on too much of that good interest. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Melissa? So it looks like we need an executive session. Do you have our calendar? I don't know if that was supposed to go with that one. I think it just, what does it all mean? I was gonna say, I don't think it means you're supposed to be looking at it, no, I don't know. This was just a note from the board, giving permission for the executive session without the president.
Are you the bathroom break before we
Go ahead, if you guys need to.
You need
It's a quick recess before the executive session.